The Archdiocese of Chicago is a vibrant and diverse faith community. We celebrate our faith through worship, evangelization, and reaching out to the needy. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Welcome to Catholic Chicago. I'm Father Greg Sakowicz, Rector of William Cathedral here in Chicago. To my left, a great friend, Mark Teresi, who does special events. Well, he does a 150th anniversary, 175th anniversary, many projects. We go back many years. Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Good morning. Very good. Just invite people Saturday. Sister Therese, missionary sister of the Sacred Heart, is going to be with us, and she's going to spend the day talking to us about Mother Cabrini and her mission, and hopefully, and there'll be lunch included. Hopefully it will inspire people.
What time does it begin?
It begins at 9. We'll finish around 5, so people can go to 5:15 Mass.
In the cathedral cafeteria?
In the cathedral cafeteria, and then the next day she'll be at the Cabrini Shrine on Lakeview, and Mass is at 10, and then she'll be giving a presentation.
Do people have to register or sign up or anything?
Well, you can go to our website, and there's a QR code where they.
Which is holynamecathedral.org.
Thank you for. You should have said the whole thing. Good questions.
Oh yes, well, that's why I get the big bucks.
I know.
We have a great program lined up here this morning. We have with us Father Lou Cameli, who is the Cardinal's Delegate for Formation and Mission for the Archdiocese of Chicago, and Michele Sotak, also the Cathedral Director of Service and Ministry. To Michele, Lou, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You're back by popular demand.
And I'm blessed to be here among these men again.
Blessed are you among women. Yeah. That's right.
I like that. You've been on the program many times. We've talked about faith and fitness, which is really the focus of today, but kind of a different angle. We've celebrated Easter several weeks ago. Now we're part of the Easter season. So maybe two halves of the program will be dealing with mystagogy and resurrection, and also dealing with mental health, which I think is the month of May for mental health awareness. So maybe for a second, Lou, as a word that most people do not know, what is mystagogy?
Yeah, mystagogy, first of all, it doesn't sound familiar because people don't use it, But it's just a pretty simple concept. So we had, mystagogy means leading into the mystery. And in the early church, after the celebration of the vigil and the baptism and confirmation and first Eucharist of the catechumens, it was an overwhelming experience, as it was for us too, at the cathedral this past Holy Saturday.
44 welcome.
Yeah, and was it 14 baptized?
18.
18, wow. So amazing. So then the pattern was after the fact to go back and take a look and help people to understand, you did this and this happened and these words were said and it meant this. So mystagogy is leading people through the mysteries to understand and to unfold what they were about, and so that people can claim in a deeper way their identity in Christ and the life that they have committed themselves to embrace. And so it's really a wonderful thing and very important. And people are probably wondering, well, how does this come together with faith and fitness? When you think about it, there's something very tangible and concrete. It has to do with our bodies, because we are a sacramental church. And in fact, mystagogy is about unfolding the meaning of the sacraments. But here you have, just think of the Easter Vigil. You've got fire and light and water and oil and bread and wine and imposition of hands. It's a very physical, the liturgy is very physical because it reflects who we are as spirit and body. So, in any case, this whole dimension is pretty important, and it's a significant thing, not only for the people who were initiated, but for all of us to go back and reclaim who we are and what happened to us.
So then really mystagogy is ongoing formation and catechesis.
Exactly.
As part of the journey and together as a community.
Yeah, we keep not only remembering, but keep learning and deepening our understanding of who we are as incorporated into Christ Jesus. So
Now, Michele, you work very well with Lou, and you have a lot of discussions and a lot of preparation. How did that word impact you, Mr. Goji?
Well, when we talked about it, what was impressive is that Father Cameli said that this is our future.
yeah,
And so we have a Christian hope for the glorification of our bodies, and so our eternal dwelling is in heaven. So that's the hope, and so we take care of our bodies now, and we do that now for many reasons, stewardship or whatnot. But we look forward to the future glorification of our bodies. So. So I would just toss it back to Father Cameli and expand a little bit more on that.
yeah. It's really very important. You're right. The vision is that we move through life and we live both a spiritual and bodily existence, but we also look forward and anticipate transformation. That's resurrection, the resurrection of the dead. The exact configuration of that, the exact way that unfolds, that's in God's mysterious plan. But we are confident. I'll tell you, I shared this with you recently. The other day there was a prayer in the liturgy that says it all. If I could quote it.
It'd be wonderful.
It's a post-communion prayer, and it was actually for Monday in the fourth week of Easter. Look with kindness upon your people, O Lord, and grant, we pray, that those you were pleased to renew by eternal mysteries, the mysteries of baptism and confirmation and Eucharist, may attain in their flesh, the incorruptible glory of the resurrection.
Beautiful.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful? I mean, that says it all. So that people are immersed in the mystery of Jesus, and they try to respond to that and live it out. And then this is asking God to take them and to pull them into the incorruptible glory of the resurrection. And it says, in their flesh. So, can I just, one quick thing?
Sure, go ahead.
One of my favorite theologians.
You're on a roll, keep going.
Okay. One of my favorite theologians, it was Karl Rahner. And he had a very interesting take on things. He said, our souls are ordered to our bodies are ordered to our soul, and we never lose that. Even at the moment of death, when there's a separation of soul and body, there's still that orientation to each other, and it comes together at the resurrection of the dead again.
In mystery.
In mystery, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Because nobody can map this out. It's not like we have a formula and say, oh, this is this and then that. No, in mystery.
Now, along those lines, Lou, is connect the Easter Vigil and connect it with mystagogy, but then the resurrection of the glorified body. Kind of just keep connecting those pieces together.
In 2 sentences.
Yeah.
Okay, make it 3.
Well, again, when you look at the actual vigil, it really is embodied. I mean, with all the signs and the symbols. But at the center of it all are persons, human persons, who are embodied. And they move into the mystery of Christ, who took flesh, our flesh, incarnate of the Virgin Mary. And, they go through this and they accept this new life in Him. That new life, as Jesus talks about it, and St. Paul too, is like a seed that then at the resurrection is revealed in its fullness for us and for the whole of creation.
I think the bottom line is, we're both talking, we're all in this together.
Right.
We're all in this together. You're going to say something, Mark?
Well, I was just going to ask Michele. So usually January, with Lou, with what you're talking about, usually January 1st is the day where people evaluate and want to change and want to be fit. But it sounds like Easter and then the Easter season should be our time.
Yes,
Right.
and Pentecost.
Right.
Do you want to say anything about
Yeah, and
that?
I think Father Cameli would also agree that, yes, the Easter season is a time of renewal, and Lent is too. And then the Easter season is a time of renewal and hope. And then Pentecost is actually one of my personal favorite church holidays because it's just so exciting. It's the birthday of the church. It's a day we could begin again, and maybe you can invite us back for that, but I'll be decked out in red because I love the zeal and the fire that comes down upon us on that day, so we could go out with grace and strength and evangelize, and it's a renewal. So with fitness, we want to make sure we keep the workouts going because that gives us clarity of mind and the strength and endurance to go out and do that. And I know we're going to get into it in a little bit, but exercise and spirituality has a lot to do with our minds, so it is a good time.
Many times along those lines, both Michele and Lou is at a wedding homily, some nice talk about how do we handle the routineness of life? Mm-hmm. How do we handle the routineness of a job?
Yeah.
The routineness of a marriage. See, once the newness wears off, how do you keep a marriage dynamic, vibrant, alive? And it's hard work. But see, so many times,
it's very hard work for my wife.
To put up with you. The thing is, but how do we handle the routineness? Because we can sometimes get into a rut, into a rhythm. And so how do you keep something alive and
fresh,
sparkling and
fresh. Yeah.
But I've learned very recently, watch your grandkids. There's always wonder in them. They're never bored. They're never, and you go out and smell the roses. How would you explain or encourage people to spend this Easter season, these 50 days toward Pentecost? Lou?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things you said, let me pick up on that too. I think one of the reasons why it's so exciting to have new people come into the church, why for us at the cathedral, for example, that Easter Vigil was so powerful, is that it offers us a time of refreshment for our own experience. We look on these people, and that's what you're saying too, Mark, with the grandkids. You see in them what you yourself have already received. And you also see that this is in motion, in movement, and there is a future. Things are going ahead.
That's important. That's
important. And that is our faith in at the end of the creed, I believe in the resurrection of the body and life everlasting.
Yes. I'll give you an example.
Amen.
We all know people, as they grow older, they become cynical, angry, toxic, bitter. And many years ago I was on retreat, and the priest said, as you grow older, is life making you better or bitter? And the choice is yours.
It is a choice, and even if you don't feel like exercising, it's faith, right? We even if we don't feel like doing something, that's what faith is. You do something before you feel something. So and it is exciting, the renewal of the church and the new people. It kind of reinvigorates us as seasoned, Christians and Catholics to see that zeal in them, and then to just go forward with
even connecting faith and fitness, connecting body and soul.
Right.
So Mark, take us to break.
And moving us toward the resurrection.
Right.
What you folks are talking about is it becomes positive.
It's prayer, and for us too, it's exercise. It's the whole person.
Yes, and you
the
do
whole
it.
person.
You just be consistent with it.
Yeah.
And we're going to take a little break. Catholic Chicago, Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Teresi, Michele Sotak, Director of Service Ministries, Holy Name Cathedral, Father Luke Cameli, Cardinals Delegate for Formation and Mission, and tremendous celebrant resident. He's retired, but he's not. He's active. Associate, Holy Name Cathedral. We'll be back in a
paid
few
commercial or something?
Did I get that
The
right?
cream of the crop.
And we'll be back in a few
Who
minutes,
wanted you to say all that?
and we'll be talking about how we move toward mental health through physical and spiritual exercises. We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
I am a seminarian.
The Church needs compassionate and well-trained priests to help guide each of us through life.
What inspires me, what draws me always to the priesthood is continuing to see priests be a beacon of hope for other people.
You can play a part in the education of these young men as they prepare for a life of service to others.
I want to be that beacon of hope too, and it sets my heart on fire.
To support our seminarians, make your gift at archchicago.org/seminarian fund or call 312-534-7959.
If I don't.
We're back. Catholic Chicago, Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Teresi here with Michele Sotak and Father Luke Cameli. We're going to spend this section talking about how fitness and spirituality fit in and how our mental health really is the girder that holds those together so that we can be healthy and grow. Michele, start us off.
Yeah, well, mind, body, and soul is what's considered really holistic wellness. So they're interconnected. So every time we exercise and we nourish our faith, we are affecting our brain. And research shows this, right? And there's a lot of evidence backed up, especially with science, how exercise affects the brain. We can really unlock our brain's potential, especially with trauma or stressors. So trauma being serious or a little bit more on the mild side, well, that stays with us through life unless it's attended to. And there's many ways that we can attend to stress and trauma in our lives, but one of those things is exercise, and it is a natural antidepressant. So if we're talking about anxiety and we're talking about depression or even loneliness, some of these negative feelings that is regulated in our brains, which actually affects our brains, but it can be regulated because exercise affects parts of the brain, such as the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex. And what it does is it's a fertilizer. And we can then, if we're consistent with exercise, what we can eventually do is grow new pathways, grow new brain cells, and that's pretty amazing, right? So, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So over at the Cathedral, Father Cameli and I have a session on May 17th, which is my baptism day, but also St. Dimpha's, her feast day is May 15th, right? And she's the mental health patroness of mental health, correct?
Right.
So we'll have a session on the 17th at the club room at 4 p.m., which we'll be expanding on this subject a little bit more about how spirituality and exercise affects the brain, especially for all of us that are affected by these negative feelings that come up through life.
That's interesting, Michele, you talk about May as Mental Health Awareness Month. Why do we have that month? Why do we have Mental Health Awareness Month?
Well, part of that is because 1 in 4 people are diagnosed with a mental illness, and that's just people that are diagnosed, right, with more serious mental health issues, but all of us are affected. So what's nice is that society is starting to create this awareness, and we have NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness, and we have organizations such as the Kenneth Young Center who actually help those in need. And we're actually partnering up with the Kenneth Young Center, which services Cook County for those that are for substance abuse, mental health, for children, adults, families, and older adults. So Holy Name Cathedral and the Faith and Fitness Ministry is supporting a 5K walk that Hustle for Health later on in the month of May, and we're going to walk to fundraise funds and also create awareness so that moving forward we can have organizations that work with people to look at the research and take time to look at the evidence and the research that shows what we need to do moving forward. And some people rely on these professionals to help them, right? Just to live.
Mm-hmm. And support groups. People, you don't heal from mental illness. You live with it. And you work with folks who support you. At least I've seen that with people. Like Sister Katie has the bereavement group. Mm-hmm. That's a tremendous group because in grieving, that's a mental stress, and they're helping each other. And she said they really share deeply about that. I had a question for Father Lou and for Greg. So priests deal with all kinds of stuff. You never know what your day is going to be. Heavy stuff many times. How do both of you, one at a time, naturally, how do you both of you look at your mental health as a priest? Because someone knocks on the door, you better be mentally healthy because you're dealing with some heavy issues.
Yeah. Well, that's an excellent question. It's also a pretty complicated one in many respects. But I think just a few things that are important. One is, and this is coming out of my training in spiritual direction, the first thing is to be aware of our own feelings. That is, so you have to know what's going on inside of you and have a pretty good, clear sense of that. The second thing is that at least periodically it's important to talk with somebody. For me, for example, yesterday I had a session with my spiritual director. So taking a look at my own spiritual journey. And if I'm grounded, then I'm going to be able to help people be grounded. But if I'm kind of untethered, that's not going to make me helpful for other people. I think that, one of the things, too, if I could just scoot in a little other perspective on this, when we're talking about mental health, it's not just, as Michele indicated, about big pathology. It includes that because there are people who are truly debilitated, and that's a sadness, and they need help, support, medication sometimes, and therapy. But for all of us, without exception, there are issues that we have to deal with. We have to deal with occasional anxiety or a kind of sadness or whatever the feeling is that can kind of derail us and not allow us to really embrace life or faith with complete and full enthusiasm.
That's excellent.
So we have to be in touch with that. In any case, I'm sorry.
That's great.
There's more to say too in answer to your question.
Along those lines, that's a great question, Mark. First of all, I think that sometimes people forget priests are human.
Yeah.
And priests have suffered with depression, other mental health issues, and we're not robots. But I think part of it for me is you root in prayer. You begin each day, and just kind of get focused on life. And a lot of what Lou said is so true, but also when you are counseling or listening to someone, you have to remain what I call emotionally detached. What does that mean? You can't get caught up into the situation and take on their problem. And so you listen well, you empathize, you offer suggestions. I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not a psychologist, so you have to be able to have resources to help people move away from that and to get the professional help. But I can listen on a spiritual level. I can listen, but it's a fine line, and and also, I'm sure Father Lou would agree with this. When someone comes to you with a very deep problem, or just going through the grief of the loss of a loved one, the loss of a job, the house burned down, it's very humbling to be invited into people's lives at very critical times. I went to the hospital to anoint someone who was dying. They don't know who I am. They see the collar, Father, thank you for coming. And you're with that person. But it's interesting that the highs and lows, in all the years I've been a priest, only one time I remember that someone asked me, how do you keep switching gears? You go from a wedding to a funeral to a baptism, something positive, something negative. Only one time I remember years ago at Simmer of the Woods, I went from a funeral of a crib death, and an hour later had a baptism. And I couldn't get the death of the child out of my head during the baptism to try to enjoy the celebrations, families. I mean, I did the best I could, but sometimes we have to switch gears too, and you pray, but it's hard. But you do it.
Right. And Michelle, what about you? As you look at all of this work with Father Lou and the mental health issue, what's your best recipe for how you look at things like your mental health?
Yes, and I know it's very important to have a balance of community, and then if you need time in solitude and in prayer with Christ, because, you know, when we suffer with Christ and we have room to, because, you know, Jesus experienced every negative human emotion, and so I try to do both. I try to have a fine balance between community and then also some solitude and time in prayer, but a lot of the time I definitely know that exercise is going to help me, and I do try to pair up the two if I'm in a bad spot, like maybe taking a nature walk or something like that. And I have great resources right here. All three of you have been amazing. Just a fine
I want
group
to
of
add
guys.
this, and that is from what the conversation has been, and that is, if you are hurting with a problem, don't be afraid to talk to someone.
Right.
Talk to a friend, talk to a priest, talk to a counselor,
Exactly.
talk to a deacon, talk to a religious. But the problem is, you know, a great line is this: things we take in quietly come out in noisy ways. And so when you're dealing with the death of a loved one, the loss of a job, some tragedy in one's life, we sometimes think we take it in, and I can hide it from other people. But all of a sudden someone starts gaining weight, losing weight, anger, road rage, drinking, going to drugs. Things we take in quietly come out in noisy ways. Please talk to someone.
Right.
Yeah, you know, and from you're right. So those are absolutely important, so that we can appropriately adjust and adapt and change and so forth. The other thing in the context of spirituality too, I made a list because I think this is so important. There are lots of things we can't do as priests. We're not, as you said, we're not psychologists, we're not psychiatrists, we're not social workers, but we can offer a perspective that is really important. And I listed the things that I would want to communicate to people who are struggling in some way with emotional, mental health issues.
And let's call this list our thank you to folks, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Okay, so let them know you are created and loved.
Yeah.
You have purpose. You are connected. You are promised. You have hope. You can and will be able to express your feelings as you find in the Psalms. You have a wisdom tradition, and you belong to others, and most especially to the Lord.
Beautiful.
When we can help them to remember these things, it doesn't take away the issues, but it sets them in a context that enables them to manage a little bit better.
Lou, as a way to close the program, recite that list one more time.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
So we're gonna have
You
chance to
are
write it
created
down.
and loved. You have purpose. You are connected. You are promised hope. You can and feel free to talk as the Psalms do. Express to God, who's got a big heart, what you feel. You have a wisdom tradition in the church, and you belong to others.
On that
especially
note,
the
powerful.
I
Lord.
want to say thank you. I want to thank in a very special way Father Lou Cameli, Michele Sotak for joining us in the program today on Faith and Fitness, dealing with Mr. Gaji and resurrection, and at the same time also dealing with Mental Health Awareness Month of May. So to Father Lou, Michelle, thank you again. You are a
Thank you so
tremendous
much.
guest. Great thank you to Mark Teresi, co-host. To our listeners, thank you for joining us here today on the program. Also, a special thanks to Michael May, our producer, director, choreographer of the entire program. Thank you. May God bless all of you. Continued Easter season blessings. Amen.